I had about 20 leeches on me. Currently I'm working on a new video for an old song, and I'm gonna tell you the story behind that song and what it's about. The song is called A Cough from the Moor. 2011 I moved with my then boyfriend to a small city in Sweden for work, and it wasn't a very good deal, but when you work with culture, sorry, there's gonna be some car noise, I realize that now. When you work with culture, you kind of really have to work your way up. I was a project manager for a community house for a specific project. It turned out I would only be employed for like a half day a week, but I was expected to be available like 24/7, and I needed to be able to communicate with everyone involved. The people that were supposed to do parts of the work just didn't want to or didn't have the time. I was trying to prove myself, of course, so I pretty much worked 24/7 on the project while living on my saved money. And in this small city that we moved to, we didn't know anyone else. I felt very alone. And believe it or not, at this community house where I was working, there were actually adult people bullying me for being an outsider with a southern accent, and probably because I had been given the title of project manager, even though I pretty much didn't make any money from it. Initially it went well, but I started to have stomach pains. Eventually they got so bad I had trouble sleeping. I went to the doctor. She didn't even look at me. I persuaded her to feel my belly and see if there was something wrong, and she just told me it was stress and that I needed to eat more fiber. And another 2 weeks went by, and the pain I was used to it, but it was also almost crippling me. I suddenly felt like something tore my body apart in my stomach. I thought I would vomit, so I went to the bathroom and I just laid there, and my boyfriend called an ambulance. Initially I actually refused an ambulance because I wasn't thinking clearly. I felt like there was no hope because I had already tried, and I felt like I was alone in all this. Fortunately, my boyfriend didn't listen to me, so he saved my life. Thank you. I was hospitalized, and they couldn't see immediately what was wrong, but they could see that there was something indicating an infection in my body coming from my stomach. My whole stomach pretty much looked like it was a mess at this point. Since I could do the traditional tests like touch your toes, stuff like that, with no problems, they weren't sure. I even tried to continue working when lying in my hospital bed, and I couldn't see anything on my phone because I had such a high fever, but I still tried to write text messages and emails. It turned out my appendix had burst. They operated and they had to remove some of my intestines because they were rotten, and of course my appendix. They had to take everything out and flush it clean. I was at the hospital for 2 more weeks with a very, very high fever. The doctors told me that I had an informal record of how long they suspected that I have had the infection before I was operated on. If they could have operated 2 weeks prior when I went to the doctors, I would have been fine in a few days. But now everything in my stomach was infected and the procedure was much more complicated, and the healing time would be much longer. So I had very mixed feelings about this whole experience, and I still do. I was, of course, very mad at that first doctor that didn't take me seriously, but also at the municipality that put me in that terrible work situation in the first place, causing me so much stress that eventually led to the infection. But I'm also grateful, because if I had lived 100 years ago, I would have died from a burst appendix. It took me about 6 months to be fully physically healed. Mentally, it also took that time. I had experienced something where my life was at risk, but that you normally don't die from, so I kind of felt alone in that experience. My trust in authorities wasn't very high before this, but after this experience it was pretty much zero. To have this very serious condition that is simple to discover and simple to treat if it had been done in time, going to the doctors and still not get the help you need, it kind of shook my core, you know? So 6 months later, in the spring of 2012, I was fully healed, and I felt I needed to create a song about this experience. The lyrics I had actually written a few years earlier, and they capture a sense of feeling doomed or realizing that you are ill, fatally ill, or just as a symbol for a threat coming to get you. I translated that text to English because it just flowed with my singing better, and a very good friend of mine helped to create the beat. I wanted a very drone-like, hypnotic beat that had this sense of doom or threat to it, but also a driving force forward. That was the creation of a cough from the Moor, and I will put the lyrics down below. So, as I said, currently I am working on a video for that song because I've always felt that song really deserves a good video. If I would have to choose one song that is my favorite song, that would be it. That song really helped me to summarize that experience and work through it. Even though the song has quite a dark story and the images capture that, I had so much fun making the video. I shot some of it standing in water for an hour. This small river is usually quite refreshing to take a quick bath in. I've done it many times. But when you stand an hour in the water, the leeches will find you. I had about 20 leeches on me, the type that are very, very small and almost transparent, which actually makes it even more icky because who knows where they will go. too much information. The video will be finished next week, so I will release it here on my channel, of course. When it's done, I will link it down below, so please check that out. I'll see you around. Bye.